Hey, our tip today is going to be about splitting or combining cells in Excel and just how to format some of this information to make it easy for you to input information into things like a Facebook custom audience list, as an example. If you have a full name that you need to split into a first name and last name, there's a couple of quick tips that I'm going to walk through today that will hopefully make this easier for you. So let's talk first about splitting data in Excel. So there's a couple of ways that you can do this. The Probably the most simple way and the one that most people use commonly is text to columns. There's a couple of different ways you can get there. You can come over here to data tab and click on text to columns. Or if you are using your keyboard shortcuts like we've talked about in the past, you can click on Alt, D, and E, and it will bring up the text to columns wizard. We're likely going to be using delimited as an option. And when we click on next, there's always options for what the delimiter is that you want to use to parse the data. In this case, I'm going to use space as the way to split it. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on finish. And it's going to take those columns and it's going to split it out into multiple columns every time it finds a space. The problem with this is things like this, our Bexley Humphrey Thompson III. That's not really what we want. And if you have a large list of names, this can be really problematic. If you only got 10, it's not that big a deal. We can, handle that manually. But when you have hundreds or thousands of names, this can be really problematic. So what's an easy way to fix this? Well, we jump over here to our other tab. We've got those same names, and I'm going to do a couple of things to clean this up. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control R, which is my find replace all. And I'm going to get rid of all of the juniors, the seniors, and the thirds in my data set. And again, when you only have 10 names, it's not that big a deal. But if you've got hundreds or thousands of names, being able to just quickly clean that up can be really helpful. And the way that I did that is I just said, in this case, with the find replace all of the third, just do the space and then the third, and then you're replacing it with nothing. So you can actually replace something in Excel with nothing. And so by doing that, you just quickly get rid of that information and make it so it's not even there. So once we've done that, then this is going to be really easy for us to split out the names. So I'm going to come up here to insert table. And normally I'm not a huge fan of tables, but this is a case where I think it's actually really, really beneficial. So Excel is going to say, well, what do we want to become a table? And it's highlighting all the information here in this array. Make sure that if your table has headers, you have selected that. My table does, full name and then first name, last name. So we'll click OK, and we'll convert this into a table. The reason to do this is because of this right here. So if we start typing in the first name of the first couple of lines, you can see that Excel will actually recognize that you're trying to pull out the first name, and it will magically pull out the first name for all those folks. We can do the same thing with the last name. So we'll type in Haynes, we'll type in Larson, and then you see as you're typing it in, it starts to populate that information. And all we have to do is hit the down arrow on our keyboard, and it will fill all of that information in. The really cool thing about this is it's smart enough to remove the middle names. So here, Bexley Humphrey Thompson just becomes Bexley Thompson. Same thing here. Amina McDowell Johnson is now just Amina Johnson. So those issues around middle names, around hyphened names, those sorts of things are not going to be an issue if you're using a table. And then if you want this first name, last name in its own cells, you can always just copy it out of the table and copy and paste that information over here. So I found that really helpful, especially for first names and last names. It's a great little tip, which is, again, just come in here, insert table, and then once you start typing that information in, Excel is going to recognize what you're trying to do and will populate all that information in first name and last name. The other thing I wanted to talk about was splitting other things in Excel like addresses. So if we come over here, we can do our same text to columns, and we can split this by our comma. So in between each of the points of this address, so we've got our street address, we've got our city, our state, and our zip. And here we don't have a comma between state and zip. We just have a space. So we could do another text to columns here as well that would just do it based off of space. So we can do it here. And now we have street address, city, state, and zip all separated out into their own columns. Sometimes you'll get the opposite of this, where you have each one of these columns and you need to combine them into a single column. So the easiest way to do that is with a formula called concatenate. If you type in concatenate, then you can start grabbing the cells that you want. The other thing you can do is you can actually add whatever you want in between the cells. So I can put whatever I want in here, but hello, I can put whatever, it doesn't matter. Even if I just want a space, I could just leave a blank space. If I want a comma, I can put a comma. Just make sure that there's double quotes around it, and then do your comma, grab our second piece of the address, and now it's going to combine those two fields together. So I find concatenate to be really helpful if you've got data that's separated into columns and you want to combine it. And I find the insert tables to be incredibly helpful to pull information out like first name and last name. Hope everyone found this helpful. As always, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to throw them into the comments of the video as well. Thanks so much. Hope everyone has a great rest of the day.